Chicago public school officials telling us federal agents showed up at the door today but were turned away. And now, in the last few minutes, a rather wild development. Let's bring in Sabrina Franza now. Sabrina, this story is changing minute by minute and a lot of questions remain.
Hi, Joe. We just received a statement from the Department of Homeland Security who told us that there were no immigration enforcement actions at or near a school in the entire city of Chicago today. Very confusing after CPS came out and told us that ICE was here on campus trying to gain access to the school. And then we reached out to ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement federal agency, who told us they were not here today. The principal of the school came out and told us that ICE was here at the school trying to gain access around 11:15 this morning, and they said they did not gain entry. They were stopped at the front by.
There's also another part of this story that I think is also kind of like indecent, by the way, for those of you who are paying attention. It's something that I didn't even consider until I saw journalists talk about the responsibility in reporting these ICE agents or the ICE raids ahead of time. It's not impersonators. No. I think that right now, they want to instill fear. One, for marketing to the base, to say like, see, we're doing it. We're doing the violent stuff so that people can say it's Trump's golden age. Finally, America's golden age is upon us. But it's also to create fear in the hearts of the undocumented migrants in general, that their apprehension will come one day, even if they're not going to do a raid. So basically, that's what they're considering this as like an additional deterrent, I guess. That anytime and anywhere that you're at, you are at fear of deportation. You are at fear. You should always be fearful of like the violent protocols of deportation. And I think that the media is, if they don't take it seriously, sometimes I think the media is also beefing up this paranoia. But it's a unique situation because like your job is to obviously cover this stuff. And I totally understand why you would cover this stuff, right? Because like, come on, if you're doing raids, like someone has to cover it, right? If raids are happening, it's the responsibility of the media to cover it. But also, if raids are not taking place, if ICE raids are not taking place and you're actually covering it as though they might, then you are kind of creating fear and creating a sense of panic too. It's awful because there's not really, like, what are you supposed to do? You know what I mean? It's a real damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. Do you understand what I'm saying? What? Okay, take a week off, dude. We're over here talking about like the American Gestapo, and this guy's doing memes in the chat about how his husband begged me to peg him or something 6 years ago, and I didn't respond. So apparently, Secret Service responded to Chicago school agency said mid reports of ICE encounter. A spokesperson for the Secret Service said the agency was investigating a threat to one of our protectees in reference to a TikTok ban. So maybe someone at the school made a threat or something to a politician. Oh my God. Okay, so here's what most likely happened. Someone at that school made a threat on social media. Against a politician, okay, because of the TikTok ban. Homophobanabi. Yeah, that's me. Yeah, there it is. It was an 11-year-old. Child Protective Services initially said agents who identified themselves as ICE arrived at Hamline Elementary School in the back of the yards Friday, but it was actually Secret Service agents looking for an 11-year-old who posted an anti-Trump video, a CPS source said. U.S. Secret Service agents, not Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents, arrived at a CPS elementary school in back of the yards Friday, but were turned away by school administrators, officials said. That's insane, bro. Brother, not that insane, okay? It's not. Oh, not Child Protective Services, Chicago Public Schools. My bad. Sorry, CPS. Chicago Public Schools. You're right. Dumbass, it's Chicago Public Schools. Yes. I apologize for being stupid. Chicago Public Schools officials initially reported the ICE agents were turned away. This is why instead of CPS, you don't start off with CPS. You say Chicago Public Schools, and then in parentheses, you bracket it as CPS. So then the rest of the article, when you say CPS, everyone knows you're referencing not Child Protective Services, but the Chicago Public Schools. That's what you're supposed to do editorially, for the record, if you're writing an article, there's a reason for why they do it that way. But they didn't do it this way. They wrote CPS everywhere in the beginning, and then only after they wrote Chicago Public Schools right here. Anyone that's done any writing, professional writing, knows that that's what you're supposed to do. Anyway, whatever, it's fine. But I guess it's because it's a Chicago it's a Chicago publication. People understand, like, the context is baked into it for the readers. Who cares? It doesn't matter. It's my fault regardless. A spokesman for ICE denied the agency visited the school Friday afternoon, according to the Sun-Times. It was actually U.S. Secret Service agents who visited the school, CBS source said, and ABC7 Chicago reported. Federal agents arrived at the school as they were searching for an 11-year-old who posted an anti-Trump video, according to a CBS source. Agents had visited a home and were told the person was a student at Hamline, the source said. The principal said school administrators followed protocols and did not allow the agents inside the school. ICE officials did not immediately respond to questions from Block Club. In an interview with MSNBC, Chicago Public School CEO Pedro Martinez said the officers presented credentials to school leaders and identified themselves as ICE. Student and staff inside the school were safe during the encounter, officials said. More than 90% of Hamline students are Latino, and about 2/3 are English learners, according to the district data. They kept the agents outside of the school and contacted the CPS Law Department and CPS Office of Safety and Security for further guidance. Agents were not permitted to speak to any of the students or staff, Fergus said. Teaching and learning continued throughout the day at Hamlin. Hamlin Elementary School Principal Natasha Ortega said the school's security and clerks followed the district's protocols. Due to that, we were able to ensure the safety of our school and all of our students. See, something isn't adding up here? No, something is absolutely adding up. Oh, because you're saying that they identify themselves as ICE instead of Secret Service? Is that what you're saying? I mean, they might have misunderstood the credentials and thought that they were saying ICE instead of Secret Service. Especially at this stage. One, ICE is not going to lie, I don't think. They have no reason to lie and be like, oh, no, we went to a school. Like, no, they want it. They want you to fear that schools are not safe either. So I think that, I mean, ICE lies all the time, make no mistake. But I'm saying, like, they wouldn't lie against their better judgment, against their best interests here. I do, however, think that, like, at this stage in the deportations, they're probably only going to go after W's, like things that they can present as a victory to claim that, like, there is, you know, 1 million undocumented migrants that are violent criminals that have simply not been apprehended by law enforcement in this country right now, right? So I think at this stage they're going to still like they'll go to some local businesses. They'll have like one guy with a bench warrant or something. You know what I mean? Anything in sanctuary cities. What? Hasan, are you cranky? You seem like it. Does your goat have her period? Why do you want rapists to be able to stay in this country? Are you one yourself? No, I want rapists to go to jail, dumbass, instead of get a free ride. Like, that's the difference, I think, between you and I, is that I actually want rapists to be punished. You just want them to be free for some weird reason. Also, the notion, I love that we're back to like old school Islamophobia, where it's like, oh, you're a goat fucker because you Muslim goat fucker. That's funny. Good one, dude. It's weird that you're calling your mom a goat. She is the goat at Dome. She's the goat at giving me head. Now you know. Townshed 55. The throat goat. Yeah. My man came in here with like Jeff Dunham memes, you know? Anyway. Hook, line, and sinker. Thanks for playing, Habibi. Yeah, you're welcome. I don't know what we were playing. Your mom was playing with my balls last night. That's why she's the goat. A lot of moms fail on that front, where they just like forget that balls are important. I was simply pretending to say you're a goat fucker. All right. Let's continue.
IPS staff, as is their protocol.
Our security.
Why are they going after a literal child? That makes sense. Child or not, if someone has done like, if someone has said something threatening to a political figure, the Secret Service will investigate it 100%. That doesn't mean that you'll go to jail or something, but they absolutely will investigate it. Damn, this guy wasn't even trying. He's just straight insane.
Clerk team followed the protocols that we've been trained and practiced and have discussed.
Wasn't it just the anti-Trump pose? No, no. Secret Service doesn't have enough Secret Service does not have enough resources to go after every anti-Trump poster, especially 11-year-olds. That 11-year-old probably said something like that he was going to kill Trump or something like that. Like I'm telling you, okay? I promise you. No, it's a child, so it's obviously ridiculous. It's a ridiculous show of force, but the child probably made a very direct threat, so much so that they at least entertained a show of force. They just, it's a part of the due diligence, I guess.
And due to that, we were able to ensure the safety of our school and all of our students.
Now, right now, it is not clear who those officers were, how many people were here, if they were looking for anyone in particular, or if they had a warrant to do so with them. We tried asking CPS those questions, and they have not told us those specifics. Coincidentally, the CEO of Chicago Public Schools, Pedro Martinez, sent out this letter to parents today, adding, quote, "As we've said many times, CPS does not ask for the immigration status of our students or families and will not cooperate with immigration and Customs Enforcement or ICE agents who come to our school unless they have a criminal judicial warrant signed by a federal judge. Even in that rare instance, we have a team of lawyers available at all times to review those warrants." Now, this is one community that has been particularly concerned about ICE's arrival. Neighbors telling us they ran outside when they started to hear commotion in light of President Trump's immigration-related executive orders, now allowing ICE agents into schools and churches and promises of mass deportations. The president of Chicago's Teachers Union says this has never happened before.
Look, this is unprecedented. This is something that none of us have ever dealt with. So we are.
Schools shouldn't announce this, but just do it. No, it's important for schools to announce it. Are you kidding me? You want to be able to continue sending your child to school and not fear that like the adults that you are giving legal guardianship over to your child are not going to, give up your child to the authorities. So no, it's good that the school is coming out and making a strong statement on this stuff. This is the same principle behind like sanctuary cities in general, right? When you think about it, on its face, you're like, why is there such a concept called sanctuary cities? Like people don't understand it. Little do they know, sanctuary cities was initially advocated for and implemented by federal and local law enforcement agencies. This is often forgotten in, the modern political discourse. Sanctuary cities comes across as like the invention of wokes, but it's actually born out of necessity. Knowing that there are millions of undocumented migrants living inside of the U.S. borders, a lot of cities that have a high density of undocumented migrants had issues where undocumented migrants are oftentimes in poorer neighborhoods and are more likely to be victims of crime by other undocumented migrants in many instances, because you do crimes to your neighbors in general. You do violence to the people closest to you in most circumstances, just how crime works, right? So basically, there was it would interfere in any sort of detective work and any sort of real police work, and it ended up causing undocumented migrants to get away with crime, oftentimes crime committed against other undocumented migrants. So basically, federal and local law enforcement pushed for sanctuary cities so that they would give assurances to the victims that they would not be unfairly prosecuted and that there would be no cooperation with ICE, and that you could freely talk to the police without fear that you might be apprehended and deported, right? This is for both victims and witnesses, exactly. Do you understand? Because if you're fearful that if you talk to a cop and they find out that you're undocumented, even though you were a witness of a heinous crime, for example, right? You're less likely to speak to the police. You're less likely to give evidence that might serve. What? Remember when Asmongold painted with a broad brush and got banned? I watch a variety of streamers, including Zachar Asmongold, and you, but I will never be announcing because of who I choose to watch. Watch your brushstroke, man. Lol. Dude, I said the nicest. I was the most careful in my statement. I said Asmongold is welcoming a lot of awful people into his community because he thinks he's like just being, a little edgy, even if he doesn't fully subscribe to this ideology. and people still got mad at me for this. It's crazy. Like, that's crazy. I'm not saying if you watch Asmongold, you're a Nazi, dumbass. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying that if you entertain those kinds of crowds, okay, by making edgy jokes or whatever, you're inevitably going to welcome those crowds into your community and say, like, no, you're welcome here. You can be in here. It's fine. And inevitably, the dynamic of your community will change, okay? I can be a smartass too, no worries. I'm just saying, that's it. It's the most charitable, it is probably the most charitable way to approach the situation. I'm using, like, I'm trying to be as understanding as possible, knowing the environment that I'm in. Tell the Nazi bar story, Hasan. What, the Nazi bar story? As in, if you have 10 people sitting on a table at the bar and one of them is a Nazi, then you have 10 Nazis. Is that what you mean?
Creating systems and protocols as we need.
Yeah, you or what? The Nazi bar is like, you can operate a bar, but if you start letting in one Nazi, then it's going to become a Nazi bar. Is that what it is? I mean, that is how it works. People with that kind of ideology do exist. And there are varying degrees of different political opinions in this great landscape of American politics, okay? Not every single person is a card-carrying, ideologically invested white nationalist neo-Nazi. But there are people like that. And the people like that want to actively recruit. And that's all they care about. And they will do everything in their power to continuously recruit. They will lie. They will obfuscate. They will touch on. They will focus on shared opinions. And there's plenty of shared opinions on that side of the political equation, because a lot of right-wing opinions, when exhausted to its logical conclusion, do end up in the fascist ideology, in the realm of fascist ideology. And that's how it works. Prominent former neo-Nazis have written extensively about this process, about how they realized that it was incredibly easy to infiltrate Republican politics and Republican communities because of how many of the shared values that they have. This does not mean that every Republican is a card-carrying Nazi. As a matter of fact, many Americans hate Nazis, right? Or at least they think they hate Nazis. This is how it works. And the most effective way to stop that, like, think about it this way. I am an outspoken leftist, anti-fascist content creator. And yet, plenty of Nazi dipshits find their way into this community. They do all the time. They're always in the chat. Okay? But what do? When I identify one, I immediately call them out and I ban them. Because if I was operating a bar, let's say, it's like I have a sign that says no Nazis allowed. Okay? People still could have the capacity to enter the bar, but once identified, I immediately dispose of them. Okay? It's that simple. If you don't do that, and my expectation isn't that every single person is that careful and that knowledgeable on dog whistles or whatever and operate with the same care and consideration. But if you are, if you're operating a bar, let's say, and you let some of these dudes in and more of them come in and they start yucking it up with the locals, and then the locals find them to be cool and chill, yeah, you're going to have a problem. Eventually, you're going to have a Nazi bar. That's it.
Now, to reiterate, lots of confusion here on the ground. Department of Homeland Security again has said that there were no immigration actions at this school or in the entire city of Chicago at a school. So far for the tolerant left, that's so funny. We're firmly planted in 2016 again, permanently. It's not even so far as so much for the tolerant left. School today. ICE says they were not here, but again, CPS and the principal of Hamline Elementary says they saw ICE agents here this morning. We're in the back of the yards neighborhood. Sabrina Franza, CBS News, Chicago. Joe.
Sabrina, thank you very much.
Now, it's important to take note that, like, while ICE said that they didn't do this, okay, this still goes along with the other thing that I was talking about, which is that even if it's not ICE doing it, it doesn't matter because it still benefits the purpose of the administration, which is to instill fear, right? So here's Stephen Miller, I believe, talking about this. Here it is. Fox, ICE agents were denied entry to an elementary school in Chicago. Let's take a look at what Stephen Miller had to say about this exact story that we just listened to.
But I want to just give you something that we just got moments ago from ABC is reporting this, and that's all I've got on it so far. ICE agents denied entry to a Southside elementary school in the Chicago public school system, and they're saying that they followed protocols, the principal says, and did not allow the agents inside. Are you aware of that situation, and is that something that is acceptable? We've heard talk about schools and churches as sanctuary spots.
There's no sanctuary for criminal.
He's a Jew, bro. Yeah, Stephen Miller is Jewish, and Stephen Miller is also still very much a Nazi. I'm sorry. Stephen Miller has often credited what was the book that Stephen Miller talks about? Like he literally credits a very prominent white nationalist book. Was it Camp of the Saints? Yeah. Stephen Miller and the Camp of the Saints. Like my man has stated, but last week Southern Poverty Law Center detailed leaked emails in which Miller encouraged far-right website Breitbart to promote white supremacist ideas. In one message, Miller references a book of fiction. Someone should point out the parallels to Camp of the Saints. Like he literally is he's a Turner Diaries and Camp of the Saints stan. So yes, you can be Jewish and still be a straight up Nazi. Stephen Miller is.
Aliens in this country, nor is there a sanctuary for child trafficking, for child smuggling, or for child endangerment. ICE officers will take the actions necessary to protect the lives and safety of our children and to identify individuals who are involved in the smuggling and trafficking of our children. In order to conduct these—
like I'll keep it $150. You know, like how I talked a lot about like the real interests of corporations here and how our bosses, corporate owners, like they don't necessarily care about, like they don't want all migrants to be deported from this country, right? And how their ultimate goal is profit. They want to keep migrants undocumented so they can have a steady pool of exploitable labor. Stephen Miller is not in that camp. He is in the camp of, I want every brown person to be violently stripped away of their rights and deported from this country. Like, if given the opportunity, I think if Stephen Miller had all power, I mean, he has a tremendous amount of power, obviously, already. But if he was like the one guy that had a magic wand, I think he would 100% put every migrant that is brown and black into camps.
And to identify individuals who are involved in the smuggling and trafficking of our children. In order to
trafficking of our children,
conduct these investigations,
we must secure a future for our children.
In order to protect the safety and security of children all across America, federal law enforcement needs unrestricted access to conduct basic investigations.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, that's my point. Like, he doesn't know the exact details. He doesn't know that it was ICE agents, but he's still taking credit over it. Why is he doing that? The Trump admin officially denying that the ICE raid ever took place to MSNBC, sending Stephen Miller to gloat over the attempted raid on Fox. There it is. Why is he doing that? This goes along with what I was saying. This goes along with what I was saying earlier, which is that even if it's not a real ICE raid, when the media reports an ICE raid that is imminent in a place like Chicago, for example, that actually still serves their purpose. They can instill fear in the undocumented migrant population. They can instill fear in the hearts of migrants and even just like other brown people that aren't migrants. You could be a documented immigrant. You could be just a regular old natural born U.S. citizen who is also kind of Hispanic looking. Like, you're still going to be fearful you're still going to be fearful that like ICE might come and you know, put you in this like involuntary hold, unjustifiable detention with complete denial of due process. It's already happened in New Jersey, like to that U.S. veteran, obviously, as we talked about, right? But the goal is, even if the raids are not conducted, the fear that a raid could have happened creates a sense of unsafety, creates a sense of panic, right? And instability. And I mean, it's just terrorizing people. That's the goal. It also serves a propaganda purpose for your base, because your base demands this kind of violence. So then you can just take credit over it and say, see, we're doing it. We're doing the damn thing. Social media has been flooded with posts about Navajo citizens being detained by U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and questioned about their U.S. citizenship. Navajo Nation leaders address reports of ICE detaining tribal citizens. Now, make no mistake, when Operation WB was happening in America, something that Donald Trump actually positively covered over and over again and routinely said he wanted to do when he was running for office, when he was running for president, that was also a gruesome process of deportation that led to 1.3 million Mexicans and Americans of Mexican descent being forcibly deported. And not just Mexicans, but like Latin Americans. And there was a ton of American citizens that were deported in the process too. They were just Hispanic or Latino. And the same is happening here as well. Like these guys seemingly are not super invested in the immigration status of a person. Do you understand? They're operating not on the basis of like your immigration status. They're simply coming after you if you look the part. That's it. And how do you figure out when someone looks the part? Well, they're not white. That's the reason why Navajo Nation leaders are getting arrested and being detained, or Navajo Nation people are being detained. Of course, in this process, everyone will say, well, it's common sense. They will try to common sensify racial profiling, okay? Even though it's supposed to be unconstitutional. Do you understand?
The United States military has initiated the deployment of 1,500 active duty troops to the southern border with Mexico, in line with Donald Trump's efforts to strengthen border security. The White House confirmed this troop movement on Wednesday, though specific details of the order are yet to be disclosed. According to U.S. officials, the deployment includes 500 Marines who will not be engaged in law enforcement activities. The deployment was widely anticipated, given immigration was a focal point of Trump's re-election campaign. Shortly after his inauguration on Monday, the president signed an executive order declaring a national emergency at the border, echoing the passionate rhetoric from his campaign. The sovereignty of America is under threat, the executive order stated. This influx has caused significant disorder and hardship in our country over the past 4 years. The order authorized the deployment of armed forces to assist the Secretary of Homeland Security in achieving complete operational control of the southern border. It called for additional physical barriers and the use of unmanned aerial surveillance. Trump's communication team swiftly hailed Wednesday's troop deployment as a fulfillment of his campaign promise. If you found this video interesting, then make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and thanks for watching.